Hi, Diane.
Hi, Jennylyn. How are you?
Good. It's good to have you back again.
Okay.
So,
Thank
uh, yes, of course, it's my pleasure. You are watching Conversations with Jennylyn, and tonight my guest is Diane Lyons. And Diane has been on my show before. Actually, let me give you her complete name. Her name is Diane Lyons Frasco. And she's been on my show before because she's the author of a book called Topics of Heavenly Proportion. And I've invited her to do a second segment because the first segment that we did, the time ran out very quickly. And a lot of you have written to me and told me she's a great storyteller. So I thought it would be nice to invite her again to do another segment. And so, Diane, welcome back to Conversations with Jennylyn.
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I was just setting our timer. We are a little late starting the show because we had some technical difficulties tonight. But you know what? We're doing it now. So let's make up for lost time.
That's right.
So the last part of the book that you told us about, you share different stories from it. So tonight I'll let you take the lead with what you want to share.
Well, I wrote the book in very large print for people who have difficulty seeing, and I was one of them with my vision. So the print is 4 times as larger than regular print. And this book was inspired by the Holy Spirit. The stories are mostly all supernatural. And the Lord wanted me to write this book and get it out there to people because some things in the book that I say and some stories that I write will touch many hearts. And people will enjoy the stories because it's very positive and I'm trying to help people. That's my mission in life, to try to help people. So I can share some of the stories with you tonight. I shared a couple last time, so tonight will be a different story or different stories, depending on how much time we have. But there is a story in here about seeing in 2 dimensions at the same time. I went to Medjugorje, Yugoslavia in 1988. And of course, everyone knows there's a big hill, that big mountain like that you walk up. And there were a lot of supernatural activities going on at the cross. There's a large cross up there. And at night, it would flash fire coming out, light, fire. So it was very fascinating. And I was walking up in the daytime by myself, and there was this cameraman that our tour group joined his tour group, and he was from Nevada, and he brought all his camera equipment with him. And so he was videotaping our group. And if we wanted a copy of that VHS tape, I'm dating how old it was, we could prepay him and he would send us the videotape.
Right.
So I did that. I wanted the tape. Now I was halfway up the mountain and there was a very large church crucifix planted there on the mountain. You know, it's something you see at church. It's, the ones they pick up and carry.
Right.
So I was standing there looking at it, and the cameraman was videotaping it. And I thought, gee, he's spending an awfully long time videotaping a crucifix. I thought, how long does it take to videotape a crucifix? It should only take maybe 5 minutes. He's zooming in and zooming out and really intent on that crucifix. And I'm thinking, wow, he's spending a half an hour. I was just standing there watching him thinking, wow, this is a little bizarre. So anyhow, I just kept walking up the mountain, and he was still videotaping it when I came down. And I couldn't figure out why. What was so important about it? It doesn't talk, it doesn't walk, it's just a crucifix. So anyhow, when I got home and I finally got the videotape and I watched it, then I realized why he was videotaping it for so long. What happened was he saw a miracle and I did not. And we were standing in the same spot at the very same time. Why he was videotaping it was because blood was coming down from the right eye of Jesus, and it came all the way down the crucifix. And he could see it, but I could not. And I thought that was very amazing that one person can be blinded to something and another person can see something spiritual. So, and that was a miracle. So God wanted me to have this experience for the future purposes. Now, this seeing in two dimensions at the same time has gone on in communist Russia. It has gone on in different other World War II. These other things, there are other stories just like this story, where one person can see something and another person cannot. Mm-hmm. So God blind people to things like for protection purposes, I believe. So God can, if he doesn't want someone to see someone's house, then, and they might be standing right next to another person who sees it. Or if he doesn't want someone to see a dog, the same thing. The other person will and one won't. So that's the power of the supernatural of Jesus Christ and his miracles. So I expect these things to happen in the future because of the times we are living in. We are living in the end times, as everyone can now see for themselves. All the earthquakes, all the disasters happening. We can see that now. A lot of people can acknowledge that, and they're living through it. So I don't think too many people can say we're not living in the end times. We're living in the apocalypse right now. And more things that are going to happen. I'm also a visionary and I see everything. I get messages from heaven. So I know a lot of these things. And the next thing I'm going to warn you about is that the earthquakes are next. And we just saw one in, I forgot where it was now. There was one in Africa.
Is it Mexico?
Mexico, yeah, they just had another one the other day, a 5.3. I can't remember where it was. Just the other day. But anyways, these really big earthquakes are coming to the United States very soon. I saw the new Madrid fault line. Mm-hmm. Another, I call them twin parallel earthquakes. One will be coming down here like this, and another will be coming down here like this. So that's going to split the country. There's going to be earthquakes where people haven't had an earthquake in a long time. And I also believe the earthquakes and the volcanoes hold hands like this. If one earthquake goes off over here, then a volcano might go off over here. So if you pay attention to this, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I believe Yellowstone will blow. That's the super volcano. We're going to have war. America will be at war. And I know the country, but I don't know if I should say it. I've seen all kinds of things coming at us.
Go ahead and say it.
I believe we will be at war with Iran. And it's going to be really awful here because we've had peace for many, many years. And also, we're going to get missiles shot at us over here. So I think that's why John Leary and Carol Leary said, do not travel after October 1st. And with the combination of the earthquakes going off and the volcanoes, it will trigger the warning. I just think myself, if a missile would hit out west, where Yellowstone is located, it's already festering. So that would just help it along to explode. And then we'll get the 3 days of darkness with that explosion, and the whole world will experience this. So we have to do an awful lot of praying. And it's important to go to confession if you're Catholic, and to repent if you're not. And just be the best person you can be, and try to love your neighbor and forgive people who have hurt you, because things are going to change dramatically. So if it's important to pray, it's important to fast if you can. I can't do that because I have a lot of health problems, but I fast in other ways. And there's just a lot to digest for me. I also have the gift of healing, and I pray over people, and a lot of people have received miraculous healings. I don't know why God chooses to heal some people and not other people, but he does. There's been a lot of miracles in my life, and I'm just the conduit of the prayers. I can't take credit for it. Jesus works through me, and I do divine works. I just prayed over a man a couple of days ago, and his healing started. So he's going to have some injections, and we're going to take it from there. And I told him,
pray over? Who did you pray over?
gentlemen, I don't want to.
I don't want you to say his name, but I just
Right.
didn't hear who he's. Okay, that's wonderful.
Yes, there was so many healings too in the past. Some people had breast cancer. People had different cancers and they got healed. There was a young girl years ago. I went to Pennsylvania, and there was a young lady in a wheelchair, and she couldn't walk. And so I prayed over her, and she had a really great attitude, and that helped her, I feel. And she was a believer. She believed in Jesus Christ. So I prayed over her back. She says, "Oh, there's something wrong with my knees." I said, "No, there's something wrong with your back. So I got to pray over your back." And as I prayed over her back, it got really hot, really warm. And I was really happy. I said, "You're going to get some kind of a healing, and you're going to be out of your wheelchair within a year." I said to her, "You're going to be walking and you'll never need it again." So 8 months later, the gentleman that invited me down to Pennsylvania that I stayed with, he called me up and he said, "Diane," he said, "you wouldn't believe who I met today in the store, so-and-so. And she's walking, she's out of her wheelchair, and it's only 8 months. It was 8 months after I left that she was able to walk." So that was not, I didn't do anything. I just do divine works. That's what I call it, my prayers. I can't do anything. I can't heal anybody, and I can't take credit for that. But Jesus healed her. But I knew that that woman would get a healing. Some people I know will get a healing, and other people I'm not sure of. And I used to have a ministry where I had people would send me photographs, and I'd pray over the photographs. And there was this one man, he was 30 years old. He had 3 children, young children, and a nice wife. And so I prayed over the photo when it got cold. It stayed cold. So I said, "Oh, this man is not going to make it." He had stage 4 cancer. I said, "Oh." I said, he's not going to make it. So I pleaded with Jesus to please heal him because he had those young children and it would be hard for his wife to raise 3 young little kids alone. So, needless to say, Jesus worked a miracle and the man was completely cured of stage 4 cancer. I could not believe it. I could not believe it because I thought he was going to die. But I think that God honored my begging prayers to let this man live because they wrote to me afterwards and they told me he was healed. And I was really shocked. So sometimes I don't know why Jesus will heal some people and not others. And sometimes people just get a temporary healing for
Right.
for a certain reason, like they might have to forgive somebody in their life. And when they finally forgive the person, God might give them a couple of more years to live. But if it was God's intention to take someone to heaven, then he'll take them to heaven sooner than, we want them to go.
Right. It's not
So,
about us.
yeah,
It's not about us.
you're right. It isn't about us. It's all in God's plan, and we cannot figure out the mind of God. We can't figure out his plan. We just have to go along and be the best people we can be and say our prayers and on and be good and just love your neighbor as yourself. That's
Right.
what to do. So those are some stories of healings. There was healings of Lyme disease, all kinds of different diseases. I prayed over this woman who had her hair growing into her head, which was this very strange, odd thing. But after I prayed over her, she said, Diane, I don't feel it anymore. I thought, I never heard of that before. But as I was praying her, I was like pulling like this. I don't know why. Sometimes I do things and I don't know why I'm doing them. And I think I was like spiritually pulling them out so they didn't grow. But she did well. She did well. And I was really shocked because I didn't know.
Stories in the book?
No, I didn't put any healing stories in the book. I put
Oh,
other
okay.
I put other stories in the book. Let me see.
No, well, you can continue to tell us about the healings that you're telling about. That's okay. I was just wondering if someone bought the book.
You
It's
like?
read of these stories and details. So that should be your next book. You
Well,
should do a book on your healings.
that's true, but I don't want, I don't want to mention anybody's name, of course, because they might not appreciate that.
You can give them fictitious names. Like say you healed Mr. Brown, you can call him Mr. White.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. So first things first, I have to get this one out first.
Okay.
And maybe who knows, I don't know what God has in store for me, but it took me 30 years to write this book. Because I couldn't, every time I tried to write it, I couldn't. And then one day, I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And one day, the Holy Spirit overshadowed me. I could feel this energy on my head and my shoulders. And the Holy Spirit said to me, you'll call the book Topics of Heavenly Proportions. And I thought, wow, what a fantastic title. I never would have thought of that myself. So I said, why don't I just be heaven's scribe? Why don't you tell me what you want me to write and then I'll write it? So that's exactly what happened. I would have, I'd wake up every morning and I would think of something that happened to me. And I said, how can I relate this to heaven or Jesus? And then the thought would come and I'd jot it down. And every single morning for 2 months, this went on and on and on until I got about 52 stories. And that was my book. So I was like the scribe of heaven, you know? So I can tell you more stories in the book if you want, or
If you want to sell it, maybe what you should do is just give us like a brief synopsis of as many of the stories as you can. And that will encourage people to go and get the book and read the story in detail. Just a suggestion.
okay, I'll try.
What do you
So-
think about that? Because believe it or not, we only have 10 minutes left. It's amazing. Well,
Okay.
we'll just keep going until you read some of them.
Okay, I'll tell you a story from the book of when I went to Yugoslavia in 1988, in May. I went on Pentecost. And of course, most people know the Blessed Mother was appearing to 6 children then. Of course, now they're all adults, middle-aged adults. And
Can I ask you why you chose Yugoslavia, or do you have connections there?
I don't have any connections there. I went over there by myself to see the Blessed Mother. I wanted to see the Blessed Mother. I was hoping I would get to see the Blessed Mother.
And did you?
I saw her as a pillar of white light in a distance. That's all I saw of her. But I saw how the bird.
Anybody watching this show, I know what they'll be thinking. How do you know it was the Virgin Mother? So I'm just asking. Because you said you saw her as a pillar of white light. So someone watching the show, like me, would be curious if she didn't have the formation that you identify with her as. How did you know it was her? Because I could hear people asking that.
Well, she was standing far off at a distance and as a pillar of white light, the shape of her body,
Oh, you did see the shape of her body.
Yeah, the shape of her body, but she was all white light. But she was at a distance and other people could see her as well as I could. But that's the only, I didn't see her close up. I didn't see her face. I saw her at a distance, like the shape of her in white light.
That's right.
Maybe that's a better way of explaining it.
Right.
But I wanted to go years ago, and my husband did not want me to go to Yugoslavia because it was a communist country. And I kept bothering him and pestering him to go. And I said, now, what could possibly go wrong over there? What kind of trouble could I get into? I said, there's nothing there except rocks and hills, and there's nothing to buy except rosary beads. I said, I'm going there as a pilgrimage to pray. So he was afraid that I would get into some kind of trouble, see? So finally, he agreed to let me go. And I wasn't going to go if he absolutely said no. I wouldn't have gone, but I was trying to get him. Oh yeah, Diane, you can go. So I finally went, and I got a room with a screen door in a little balcony. And there was another room in the middle of the hotel, and a priest wanted my room because he was claustrophobic. So I went into his room, and I was claustrophobic too. And I said, no, I'm sorry. I can't give this room up. And it was the best choice I made, and I'll tell you why. I don't know if I can finish the story, but I'll try to move it along. So the first day, I saw the miracle of the cross flashing fire. I also was in church, and I had my little tape recorder, and I was taping the mass. And all of a sudden, I heard the 9 choirs of holy angels escorting the Blessed Mother in. This beautiful soprano music. I'm there, where's it coming from? Where is it coming from? So I'm looking around. I said, oh, there must be a choir up there, and I can't see it. So after the mass was over, I'm running around looking for the beautiful singers and couldn't find them. Somebody said to me, Diane, you heard the angels singing. I said, oh, and I was taping it, and my tape ran out. So I'm pulling the tape out to try to flip it over to get the sound of the angels on the tape. And the minute I pressed the button after I had it over,
Oh.
it was dead. Stop. Because they didn't want me to record it. And I didn't know that. So anyhow, let's see what else happened. So I did all kinds of things when I was there, which I'm not going to go into all of them. But the people that ran the hotel were Croatian. This gentleman and his entire family worked there. So they worked 7 days a week. They got 1 day off a month. That was their only day off. Can you imagine that? And they didn't own the hotel. They worked for the government and or somebody who did own it. So I felt, now I was very young, and I felt the communists or whoever owned this were trying to play tricks on the tourists. This is how I felt. So every morning we'd get up, go in at 8 o'clock, take a shower, and the water would always be cold. And I'm thinking, I said, this isn't right. We're paying for hot water. And everybody would be screaming. The same thing went on and on and on. So I got this bright idea. Well, I think I'm going to get up a couple hours early. And I bet your bippy that water will be hot. Sure enough, I get up at 6 o'clock, a nice hot shower. No problem. So I didn't tell anybody my secret. So I was pressed, and at 8 o'clock, sitting on my bed, and the ladies all go in, and and I'm giggling away because they're screaming because it's cold water. And I said, they're purposely doing this to the tourists, right? So then they would, when we had to go down for dinner, all of a sudden the lights would be out. We'd have to walk down the stairs in the dark and walk up to our rooms in the dark. I said, this is ridiculous. So I had gone on a tour to Dubrovnik, and I got a candle at St. Blaise's. So I figured, oh, it's all blessed and holy. I'll just light my little candle here and let it go. Let it burn in the room. It should be fine. It's a holy, blessed candle. And I'll go down to dinner, and then I'll come up and I'll have light. I can see in my room. Well, guess what? I started a fire. I think Satan must have blown on that candle. And when I came up, my room was on fire. So,
Are you kidding?
Huh?
Your room was on fire? Wasn't the candle in a container?
The candle was a church candle, a glass candle. It
Yeah.
had a little top on it with air holes in it. So I figured it should be fine. It got blessed and everything, right? So I could see when I got back in my room all right. I could see because my dressing table was on fire, and the lamp, and
How did the fire start if the candle is in a jar with a lid?
I don't know. There's all kinds of weird supernatural things going on over there. I think the devil did it. So it's burning,
Yeah.
and there's no sprinkler system there. It's a different foreign. There's no fire extinguishers. There's nothing. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm really in a lot of hot water here. My husband knew I'd get in trouble somehow. So I'm blowing on the fire, trying to put it out. And then it jumps on me. It jumped on my leg and burnt a hole in my clothing.
My goodness.
And I'm banging it out. And then it jumps on the floor, on the carpet, and burns the carpet. And so I didn't know what else to do but scream, fire, fire, fire. So luckily, this gentleman comes running in the room with a pillow, and he batted the fire out. Now, I had all my cosmetics on the table with my rosary beads, of course, and there was a can of mousse. The mousse can got singed. Can you imagine if the mousse can blew? The whole room would have been a mess. So Luckily, this man came and saved the day and batted the fire out. So then I had total smoke inhalation in my room. So they all came up and they're yelling and screaming. So I ran in the bathroom and hid. And the and the and my tour the tour
Good story.
the tour lady said to the guy that was so angry, she said, no, she said, well, you know, she is very young. So what she was saying was, you know, please forgive her. She's a dumb, stupid kid. That's really what she meant, but she said it in a nice way. So I said, oh, good. I'm glad she stuck up for me. So the guy kind of calmed down after a while because I was hiding in the ladies' room and I wasn't going to come out and confront him because it was a dumb accident, you know, my own
But
stupidity.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around because I burn candles all the time. How, if you have a candle in a glass jar with a lid, how did this fire start?
I don't know.
We just ran out of time, but we have to hear the rest of the story.
Okay, so the manager came up of the place and he said to me, he says, the first thing he said out of his mouth was he thanked the Blessed Mother because it could have been a lot worse. So the damages came to $350 American money. And I thought, oh, that's not too bad. Could have been thousands, right? So the communists detained me in the country until I paid my bill. So all I had was like $50 to my name. And I had a credit card, but I wasn't going to give it to them because I didn't know what they were going to do with it. And so I said, I got to get myself out of this hot water here. I'm always getting in trouble doing nothing, right? So I wrote out a rubber check because I had to get out of the country. And they took our passports away from us the minute we stepped on into that country. They hold your passport. That's what they do over there. So I couldn't escape. Anyways, the room was totally smoke inhalated. I had to sleep in that room that with all the smoke. And I was planning on buying a hydraulic chair that cost $350. And that's how much the damages were. So anyhow, I told the gentleman I would pay him, you know, for my damages. So I was going home like within a few days from there. And back then, it took 2 weeks to make good on a check. You had 2 weeks leeway. So I had 2 weeks to deposit money from my savings account into the checking account to make it good. So I was concerned with, are they trying to double dip me? Don't these people have insurance like we do in America? And then they're trying to get money out of me too. So I made a phone call and they said, oh, Diane, you're not covered. So my tour guide had a good suggestion. She says, why don't you talk to your homeowner's insurance and see if your homeowner's insurance will cover it?
Right.
So guess what? I had to tell my husband that I did a stupid thing and started a fire in a foreign country. After he didn't want me to go because he knew I'd get into trouble, and I did.
Oh no.
I had it.
Is that why you got divorced?
Yes,
Is that why you got divorced?
no, there was a different reason, but
Oh.
anyways, so that was the worst part of the whole thing, was telling my husband about my boo-boos. So I was still confused. The only thing that really concerned me, it wasn't really the paying the money. I just wanted to know if they were trying to cheat me, you know, whether they have insurance like we do and they're trying to get money out of me and money out of the insurance. Well, come to find out, they did it. So what I did was I went into the chapel And I said to Jesus, now, Jesus, I'm in a desperate situation here. You have to tell me the truth, and I need to hear your voice because I don't know what to do. I don't know whether I should pay or not pay. So Jesus said these words to me loud and clear. He said, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. I said, okay, Jesus, that means I got to pay them. So I went immediately and I made good on the check. So they got their money. Now we did tell the what do you call it? The homeowners insurance, and they covered the $350, but I lost a lot of my clothing, all my cosmetics. So I had no toothbrush, no toothpaste, no deodorant. And I'm going home on a stinking and smelling.
No money.
No, well, just $50. And so I wrote the rubber check out. So I made good on the check. And everybody's telling me, hey, Diane, you don't have to pay them. You can just skedaddle out of here. And they can't do anything about it. I said, you just came from a holy ground and you're telling me this to steal money from the guy? I'm not going to do that. My whole object was
Tell them you heard Jesus' voice telling you you need to do unto others as you want done to you.
Yeah, he told me that. So I made good on the check. I said, okay, thanks, the Lord. I know what to do now. So I made good on the check. The day I made good on the check was the day the homeowner sent me a check in the mail, the exact day, for $350 so I could go out and buy my hydraulic chair. And I went out and bought that chair. I didn't screw the man at all. I made good on everything. I did everything morally correct. But I was just a kid. I was only like 30 years old. And I just was confused at what should I do here, you know? And I asked them, I said, well, what would happen if I had burnt the whole place down? They said, well, you would have had to pay us $250,000 or we would have put you in jail. I said, you're kidding me. He said, no, you would have been in. I said, well, I guess I would have been in jail for lighting a candle. But luckily, the man batted the fire out and I was safe.
Oh.
So there's stories like that. A lot of good stories in the book that'll make you laugh. And some are very serious too. Some may even make you cry. I don't know. But there's some good, entertaining stories, and they're true. And they have, a little moral background of what you should do. So I don't think I'm going to go to any more communist countries because I'm getting too much.
Or if you go, do not light any candles.
That's right.
But Diane, I always enjoy listening to your stories. I would like to encourage anyone watching this interview to go get her book. She gifted me a copy for my birthday, and you will not be disappointed. It's an easy read. Like she said, the font is quite big, and her stories are very entertaining. You won't be bored, and you will want to keep reading it. So the name of the book is Topics of Heavenly Proportion. And you can get it on Diane's website, right, Diane?
Yes, topicsofheavenlyproportions.com. That's the only place it's being sold because it's a self-published book. So I'm selling it myself and doing all the work myself because this is how God wants it. So it's not on Amazon, even though they have it. I did try to sell it on Amazon years ago and it wasn't working out. So they still kept it on there, but they don't have any of my books and they can't sell them because I closed that little contract, but they still kept it up like I'm still there. So don't be fooled by that. Just go to topicsofheavenlyproportions.com if you're interested in buying the book, and it's through Square. That's how we get this finances going. So I don't know what else to tell you.
Diane, thank you so much for spending this time with my viewers and I a second time talking about your book. And before I wrap this show up, I would really encourage you to do a book on your healing ministry. And you don't have to use the names of the people. You can give them fictitious names. So this way you're not violating anybody's privacy. And so
Right.
the next show will be about that book. How about
Okay, I'll have to write them down to try to remember them all.
Yes, and thank you so much for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. I try to bring you unique stories, fascinating people, and hopefully every single segment that you may have watched has inspired you in some way. And I will see you soon with another fascinating guest. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.